Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I have my lapel mic on. It's Monday, the 21st of July 2025. It's 20 past 7 in the morning, and I'm 6.3 k's into my morning run. I've been running west along Middle Arm Road for local people, and now I've turned and be running east and then back to my starting point at the dog park behind the tillage. It makes no sense for people who are outside of Goulburn, but there'll be a map at the end of the video so you can see where I went if that's your interest. Now, today I'm going to talk about Ruth Chepngetich, who's in the news again, unfortunately for all the wrong reasons, and I'll get to those in a moment. So you're correct in saying, oh, didn't you talk about this once before? Yes, I did. In October last year, so for a quick recap, Ruth Chepngetich is a Kenyan marathon runner. She's a female Kenyan marathon runner. In October last year, she won the Chicago Marathon. Well, that is, she was the first woman across the finish line. That in itself is pretty significant. Somebody's got to win, I guess, but she did. But she also crossed the line in 2 hours and 9 minutes and 56 seconds. And the significance of that particular time, what I'm being specific about, is it was under 2 hours and 10 minutes, and no woman has ever run under 2 hours 10 minutes for a marathon, not before, and in fact not since. And all of the experts, all the pundits, and all the people who say they know said that's impossible. She must have had some assistance. In other words, and this is almost the first question she was asked at the press conference afterwards, she must have taken something. I suggested that the only way that she could have done that is if she had cheated by using some illegal substance. They suggested some other reasons why the record wasn't valid. I'll come to those in a sec. But they suggested the only way she could have achieved that record was if she cheated and had taken some illegal substance to boost her performance. Now, at the time, I made a couple of videos, and I said in those videos I wasn't trying to defend her because I don't know her and I don't know anything about her performances. All I said was, if she cheated, let's find the evidence and let's produce the evidence. Let's not make accusations and then have no evidence to support them. What evidence would we require? Well, documents from the laboratories who tested her samples, statements from the chemists who analysed those samples and interpreted the results, statements from the organisers of the Chicago Marathon, from the International Athletics Authority, or other people who are entitled and qualified to make judgments about those results. None of those things were forthcoming. None of them. There were no lab reports. There were no statements from chemists. There were no statements from Athletics Integrity Unit or International Athletics or Athletics, World Athletics or whatever those bodies are called. None of those people came forward with anything that said, look, here's an analysis of her sample. She had this in the system. That's an illegal substance. You're correct, she did cheat. And therefore, the record is null and void. Now, at the time that she was asked this question about, well, what did you take? She rightly got annoyed. She said words to the effect of, well, if Kipchoge, the male Kenyan marathon runner, runs under 2 hours, which she did, everybody says that's a superhuman feat. I run under 2 hours, 10 minutes, and because I'm a woman, is it? Or because I'm black? Or because of what? You automatically suggest that I cheat, or that I cheated. Now, those who suggested the record wasn't kosher, not only did they suggest that she took a substance, but provided no evidence to support that claim, they suggested that because she had run with pacers, male pacers, that somehow gave her an unfair advantage. And in the videos that I made, I pointed out, or I said rather, that I assumed that the male pacers that she used were approved by the organisers of the event. Their details were submitted in advance so that it could be checked to see if they were banned athletes or under a cloud or under an investigation of any sort. It wouldn't be a case of he just turned up at the start line and said, "Oh, I'm here, mark my name off, and by the way, I brought a couple of mates to run with me." And as I discovered the other day, there is a male record for a particular event, such as the Chicago Marathon. There is a female record, and then there is what's called a mixed record. And as best I can understand what the gentleman was explaining, has nothing to do with transgender people. It's to do with people who have run, or females, for example, who have run and used male pacers. And I say again, I assume the use of the male pacers was sanctioned by everybody involved in that event, and those bodies or organisations that give the Chicago Marathon its status. Now, another reason they suggested she had an unfair advantage was they said that she was a Nike runner, which she was, or is, and she wore Nike Alpha Fly or something, some magic shoes, and that was unfair. Now, every one of the first 10 place getters, both male and female, and probably the paces that she used, are all people who run for a shoe company of some sort or the other. Words, Nike, Adidas, Asics, or whatever, they all run for shoe companies. And so every single one of them excuse me, would have been wearing the magic shoes. Now, I've made some videos about those before. I've never worn them, but there are studies that suggest they do provide some improvement, but not sufficient to explain the improvement in her performance, which is something like 4 minutes, I believe, over her previous time. Okay, so that's the background. So fast forward from October to December of 2025, and the World Athletics, that is the body that's in charge of all records for athletics, track and field running, all that sort of stuff, road running, marathons, the whole bit, they approve of her record. They say the 2 hours 09:56 stands. She gets to keep the prize money. She gets to her name in the record books and so forth. Now, I assume, I have no evidence to make these claims, but I assume that they have had access to any and all testing of her samples, and they had time to analyse them, time to double check them, time to get another lab to test them if they want, and consult with every expert they want to consult with to see if there's anything not quite right about this. And they've approved, ratified her record and said, yes, you can have your name in the record books. Now she enters the 2025 London Marathon, and because of her name and what she's achieved, oh, by the way, I should have said earlier that she had won Chicago twice before. So anyway, she's entered the London Marathon, and they've used her name and her image to promote the event, to encourage other people to enter, and generally publicise the event as you would. Now, in the lead up to the London Marathon, she decides to run a 10k race in Lisbon in Portugal. She runs that race and is drug tested afterwards, and she tests positive to a substance called HCZT or TZ. I don't want to mangle the words that it stands for, hydrochlorine something or other, and it's a diuretic. It's a banned substance because it's a diuretic. A diuretic, I'm not a pharmacologist or anything like that, but according to the people who say they know, the explanations that I read, a diuretic is something that helps you lose fluid from your body. It's used to treat kidney function and also hypertension, which is high blood pressure. But it also, because it works on your kidney function, it makes you urinate much more frequently. And because it does that, it dilutes your urine, therefore makes it harder for drug testers to find anything else that you might have taken. It's been a banned substance since late 1980s, I believe. And morning, that would have been well known to her, to the officials who were doing the testing, and to anybody associated with her team, entourage, whatever you want to call it. It's banned because it masks any other substance that you might have taken, such as for EPA, for example. And I'm not saying she took it or she used that. I'm saying that this HCZT or TZ, can't remember which it is, can, by diluting your urine, mask the fact that you may have taken some other substance. Now, when the laboratories test for this HC whatever, if they record a result of 20 nanograms per mil of sample or less, they disregard it. They say, well, that's acceptable. Unfortunately, in Ruth's case, her sample recorded 3,800 nanograms per mil of sample. That is approximately 200 times the allowable limit. On that basis, she was informed that she had tested positive to a banned substance. She withdrew from the London Marathon, stating that she was not in the right mental space to be able to run, and accepted a provisional suspension. And this is where it gets a little bit interesting though, because people in the running world, a number of places where I've seen reaction to this, have said, well, that proves that she must have cheated at Chicago. Therefore, the record should be stripped. She should be made to give the prize money back, and she should be banned for life. Now, if there's a body called the Athletics Integrity Unit, and they've launched an investigation into this positive test of hers, and excuse me, if the lab results prove to be correct, and if they say, well, yes, on the basis of these results, after we've given you due process and natural justice, we've decided to ban you, she could be banned for a maximum of 4 years, possibly 2 years, but a maximum of 4 years. Now, you would expect that either of those periods would effectively be the end of her running career, because she's in her 30s now, and if she had to go 2 years without competition, no matter how much training she did, it would be hard to come back from that. And if she had to go 4 years, I reckon it would be pretty close to impossible. But I want to go back to the Chicago Marathon for a minute. Chicago Marathon is one of the premier marathon running events in the calendar. It is used to, finishers are allowed to submit their finishing time as a qualifying time for the Olympics. It is also allowed to use your performance there to gain ranking points for your world ranking and to enter the world championships. So it's a pretty prestigious event, I would have thought. It is run by a body called the Abbott Group, who are now in charge of running, I think, 6 or 7 major marathons around the world, including they just added Sydney for, I think, next year. 2026 will become one of the major running marathons of the world. Now, so the point about that is, you would assume that these people want to protect the integrity of their event. You would assume that they want their event to be clean, and that therefore they have rigorous, robust drug testing procedures, and those rigorous and robust drug testing procedures would be used on all 3 place getters, male and female, and perhaps even in her case, the pacers. So either they don't have those procedures, or they didn't apply them as rigorously as they ought to have done in her case, or perhaps, just perhaps, she had taken something last October to mask her performance. Now, I'm not saying she did or she didn't, but I'm saying if the drug testing procedures used at the Chicago Marathon are as rigorous and robust as they ought to be for an international event that's sanctioned by the International Athletics Body, they should have picked up any anomalies in her urine samples, and I would assume that if there was anything that looked a little bit off in the urine samples, they would have required blood tests and more information. At the time, as I said earlier, no evidence was produced, no documents, no analysis, no serious scientist in a white lab coat explaining it all to the assembled media and the public. Now, I'm not defending her, I'm not criticising her, I don't know her. What I'm saying is, in this case, that is the case of the Lisbon run, there appears to be evidence of her having taken a banned substance. On the basis of that, there is an investigation. We should now let the investigation run its course, make sure that she is afforded due process, natural justice, and is afforded the opportunity to present her case and explain, if she can, how 200 times the limit of this substance was found in her system and why it was there. And then we should let relevant people, whether it's the Athletics Integrity Unit or World Athletics or somebody else, make a judgment about what is the appropriate punishment for her. I believe if she has taken an illegal substance, she should be punished because she has therefore cheated, and running, like every other sport, should be clean. The other people who lined up at the start line with her for Lisbon or Chicago or any other event want to be able, they want to think, well, I didn't take anything. Nobody else, I hope everybody else around me hasn't taken anything, and that we all, our performance is based solely, or the result today, sorry, is based solely on our performance, nothing that might have enhanced it. This is a side observation. There's an Italian bloke, Yannick Sinner, I think his name is, it might be Sinner. He's a tennis player. I believe he's ranked either number 1 or number 2 in the world at the moment. He tested positive to a banned substance recently. When I say recently, it was either late 2023 or 2024 sometime. He tested positive to a banned substance. He provided an explanation, which was that his masseur had cut his finger and rubbed some cream on this cut on his finger, and then given this Yannick Sinner, the tennis player, a massage, and that's how the substance that was banned found its way into his body. Now, Tennis Integrity Unit accepted that explanation. It gave him a suspension, nevertheless, but, and here's the tricky part about that, the suspension they gave him was 3 months, I think, in the off season. So while everybody in tennis is having a holiday from the grueling circuit, this bloke, he's serving a 3-month suspension, and then he comes back as if nothing's happened and just continues on his merry way with his explanation that his masseur rubbed some goop into his skin. Now, the amount of the banned substance was negligible, but that's not the point. A banned substance is a banned substance. Should he have been banned for 2 years or 4 years? I don't know. I know at the time Nick Kyrgios, the Australian tennis player, thought there was something rotten in the state of Denmark and said so. Now, to get back to Ruth Chepngetich, if it's proven after all the procedures that need to be followed are followed, that she has taken an illegal substance, then, as I said, she should be punished, and she should be punished with the appropriate suspension for what it is that she has done, be that 2 years or 4 years. there is something called a biological passport that athletes are supposed to carry, that the Athletics Integrity Unit can investigate and see when else she's been tested, where she's been and so on. And if they can now produce evidence to say, well, the time that she recorded in Chicago in October last year was chemically enhanced and therefore invalid, and of course her name should be removed from the record book, and any prize money that she won she should have to return. Now, in the absence of that evidence, there will always be people who say, well, she did it once, she must have done it before. And maybe that's true, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know her and I don't know anything about her. But on the other hand, we don't want to convict people of offences that will have the effect in her case of probably ending her career on rumours and say-so, or hearsay, or because, well, she did it once, so she must have done it before, and therefore she should be stripped of all the titles and all the money and whatever, and she'll be banned for life. So anyway, those are my thoughts about Ruth Chepngetich. If you have a comment, then you're welcome to make it. Please comment on the content. We don't know each other. I don't make assumptions about you. I don't make any about me other than that I'm an old guy running and rambling about things that are interesting to me. When I become aware of your comment, I will respond appropriately. Have a good day, whatever it is you're doing today, and I'll catch you when I'm making the next running video. Thanks for watching.